Hi there, welcome to this playthrough slash guide of Renowed Explorers. It's a strategy game I've liked for a really long time. Not many people know it so much, so I thought I'd go through and give a sort of an introduction to it and some guide and how it's played. I'll try and keep things fairly simple for this first playthrough, so I guess we'll untick that, hey? So a nice easy person to start with is Victor. Don't worry about all this stuff, I'll explain all this later. For now I'm just choosing a crew of 3 people. And I think Victor, as we're told, goes well with Philippe and Quay. So we have Victor, we have Philippe, and we'll have either Quay or Kwame, not quite sure. And click the Start Adventure button. So 3 player explorers are off to start their adventure. We're at the burial site of the Saxon kings. Just got our Renowned Explorers membership and you want to make a big entrance. Somewhere on the mainland of Britain, King Egbert's grave is a particular mystery we're looking for. So let's check out the tutorial. Our goal in this game is to get the most renown possible, which is basically our points, and to beat our rivals and raise the title of Most Renowned Explorer. And there's a bunch of game mechanics we want to learn here, including strategies and systems, which the tutorial will cover, and which I'll be going over as well. So the fun bit is we get to read these little stories and fun treasures. There's also a bunch of strategy and sort of mechanical systems in place as well. So you've played Civilization or Faster Than Light or all these kinds of games. There's all these kinds of concepts in play for, well, strategy. So let's go from the start. Now, as the game mentioned, what we want to is to gather as much renown as possible to become this year's most renowned explorer. In particular, this guy here, Matthew Rivello, is our biggest rival, who's got 2,500 points already. Now, how do we get these renown points? We get them by finding treasures, and also by collecting gold, by collecting status, and by collecting research, which are sort of our currencies through this game. Now, so you may have noticed there's a map briefly behind the screen, and each of these maps we go through is known as an expedition. On each expedition we collect some resources. So there's gold, which we use to buy better items. There's status, which can attract us friends who help us in various ways. There's research, which is, well, research, sort of a tech tree. And then this third one, which comes over here, is insight, which we can use to give us other resources between maps. And these resources all are giving us points. So we want to get gold, status, and research. Now, secondly, how do we get these resources? So as we wander around on our expedition map, we get given various different tokens. And these tokens give us different resources. So these study tokens will give us research. There's also campaign tokens and gold tokens and all kinds of tokens. Once we finish each map, our expedition ends, with us hopefully finishing a goal. And then there's treasures and secrets, all kinds of fun things. So what does it actually mean to wander around on these expeditions? Well, so there's sort of 2 main things to keep in mind of. We have resolve, which is kind of how many lives we have. And we have supplies, which is kind of how much fuel we have. How much supplies we have. How many trips can we take? So if we run out of lives, we lose. And whenever we finish a whenever we finish an expedition, we get slightly more resolve. We get a couple of extra lives. Supplies we use to move around a map, going from node to node to node. And if we run out, then bad stuff happens with our crew getting a bit weak. But the good news is, there's often a chance to get a few more supplies. So we want to get treasures, complete the expedition, want to get as many points, as much renown as possible. And we do this by getting gold, status and research, which we can spend to make ourselves stronger, get friends, get items, and don't run out of resolve and don't run out of supplies. Right. Now, across the map we come across encounters on our expeditions. And this is where the sort of the tactical combat gameplay comes into it. However, rather than just having to beat people up, we can also be sneaky and trick them, or we can be friendly and try and make some friends. So, let's go through the basics of encounters. So, happily we're told what to do for this one, so we don't have to worry about that too much. So, welcome to our first encounter. So we choose who we want to use by clicking on our left mouse button. So we can choose Victor, or Kwame, or Philippe. So let's go with Philippe. Or Victor. If we want to move them, we can click on the right mouse button on any of the tiles they can move to. So you can see all of these blue tiles, and we can make them walk around like so. Or if we want to cancel that, we can just click the left mouse button to go back in. And so let's move Kwame up as well, and let's move Philippe along. And we've moved everyone now, so that's the end of our turn. End turn. Now these Highlands are going to come over, and it looks like he's attacked us, so we took 5 damage there. So when you're close to people, you get to interact with them in some fashion. And this is not how I designed a tutorial, perhaps. This looks a little complicated. There's a few things to keep in mind. Don't worry, because I'll be covering through this throughout the game a bit as well. So the first, we're told how likely is our attack's going to hit. So 100%, very good. Less than that, not so good. We can see how much damage it's going to do, what's known as spirit damage, which is the sort of the health of units in this game. And we see what emotion the unit will have. Now that's a bit complicated, we'll come back to it later, but emotions are, I think, one of the really fun bits of this game, so that's something to look forward to. And then lastly, we're going to see how the ability is going to affect the target's vibe. Whether they're in sort of a good mood in the green bar, or a bad mood in the red bar. If we're nice to them, they'll feel happy. If we're mean to them, they'll feel sad. Now, looks like we're in position, so let's bring Philippe up. And look, I'm pretty happy with where Victor and Kwame are. So Philippe has this attack here. So we can see that we have 220% accuracy, which is very high, because he's a surgeon, he's very accurate, I guess. So Philippe's is definitely going to hit, and we can see that the health bar is going to go away entirely. So he's going to deal with this fella in one shot. Then it's going to make him a bit upset. Well, turns out being slash with a scalpel will do that, won't it? So, see that in a gorgeous little animation, he slashes. It's a little blood first, isn't it? Philippe slashes that guy, and he's down. So we used a physical attack with our scalpel, and we damage our opponent's spirit, their health. And if we want to deal with this guy as well, Victor has this sword, which we're going to attack with again. And notice this is 100% to hit, so we're definitely going to hit. And just as Philippe, we're going to deal with this volunteer in a single strike. Good form. And we got an aggressive victory, as we are being aggressive that combat. Now, so let's talk about attitudes. So there's different types of ways to win each encounter, or any encounter in fact. So these are friendly, devious, and aggressive. So we can be nice to them, we can be mean to them, or we can stab them, which is what we did in that fight just now. Now, so here we have little different goals. Being what happens, we get different outcomes. So if we're friendly to them, we do a good job. If we're devious, it doesn't matter, and if we're aggressive, then bad stuff happens. So often with encounters, depending on how you resolve them, you'll get different rewards. So here we're told that we want to be friendly to them, so let's look at that. Now, so we have the 3 different attitudes: friendly, devious, and aggressive. And this fight, we want to be friendly, which told us we're amazing, as compared to the others, which are not so good. Yeah, so red's gold bad, green cross good, as you'd expect. Now, all of our crew members start with 3 different abilities. They have an aggressive ability, a devious ability, and a friendly ability. And we can mouse over these in a second, we'll see what they do. So, for Victor, let's have a look. So we've got an attack, which is aggressive. We can try and make people mad, or try to enrage them, which is devious. And we have encourage, which is a friendly ability, which makes them happy. And so depending on which kind of ability we have affects which of these 3 attitudes we end up with. Now, so we're told we want to be friendly to them, so let's use a friendly ability. As Kwame is right here, we see his friendly ability is excite. So if we excite this volunteer, let's see what happens. We can see that it's definitely going to hit 133%. See that it takes out his health bar his spirit in a single go, and it would make him happy. So let's find out. And this guy is so excited about working with us that he gives up. And you also notice on the left that this friendly bar associating with what attitude we have is filled up. So in this counter so far we are being friendly. And every different ability we use affects this bar a little bit. It's more sort of an art of a science trying to balance this. The game's a little vague as to how that works. But normally killing enemies counts for a lot, being in the attitude counts for a lot, and defeating the last person in the fight with it also counts for a lot. And as they tell us, physical attacks, actually just smacking someone with your sword, was also fairly important. Now as to which of these we actually want, things are more complicated, because of course they are. So characters have different stats, which affect how their different attacks work. So these are speech, which is represented by this little speech bubble, and attack, represented by this little either a hoof or a fireball or something like that. So aggressive abilities work well with high attack, whereas speech abilities, which are friendly and devious, work well with high speech. So you want to be good at talking, if you want to be friendly or mean to someone, and you want to be big and burly, if you're wanting to smack them. And of course, as well as us, the enemies that we face also have strengths and weaknesses. I don't think that's how you spell strengths, but that's okay. So for example, some wolves, wild animals, don't care too much about your words, but people can take things pretty badly. And so the associated statistics with these, and alright, so we'll be covering this again in the first few fights, if I'm going a bit fast, are armor and speech defense. So armor reduces how much damage people take from physical attacks, as you'd expect, and speech defense represents how much damage they take from speech attacks. So if you've got high armor, then attacking them doesn't work very well. Whereas if you have high speech defense, then being mean to them won't work very well. And so we can look at this by checking out our opponent. So we can see that his speech power and attack power are sort of middling. He's got incredibly high armor, so he only takes 1/3 damage if we attack him directly. However, his speech defense is 0, so he takes full damage from speech attacks. Now, if we jump back to our crew, we're looking at Kwame, we can see that he's got high speech power and lower attack power. Philippe is sort of middleish with slightly better attack power, and Victor is sort of high in both of them. And this depends a bit on what character classes these guys had, which I'll cover later, but Victor is a fighter who's good at physical things, Kwame is a speaker who's good at speech things, and Philippe is a scientist who's kind of an all-rounder with some fun utility stuff we'll get to later. Anyway, as we checked out this armored volunteer, we're reminded that aggressive abilities aren't going to work very well because his armor's so high. So, just to sum up attitudes, depending on what kind of attitude we finish a fight with, we'll get different rewards. Our crew can be good and bad at different things, and opponents have different strengths and weaknesses. So it's kind of a balancing game, working out what you want and how hard it is going to be to get it. In this case, we want to be friendly, and conveniently, this guy is weak to speech defense. So if we use friendly abilities on him, it should be fairly easy to deal with him. So let's encourage him with Philippe, and we'll see that does most of his health in a single go. Most of his spirit. Rajaway! And he's very well encouraged. And if we bring in Victor, we'll encourage him once more, and it will be that. So each character has their own little animation for all of their attacks, which I love. So Victor's all like, oh ho ho, I have a trumpet. And he's confident that we've got what it takes. And so we managed to win this while being friendly. Interestingly, it kicked me out of the tutorial just now, which there should have been more of. So I suppose I'll start on with the game itself. So this is the tutorial island for now, so I'll sort of make sure I go over the basics a little bit more, and I won't worry too much about strategy for just now. So if I'm doing stuff I'm not explaining, don't worry about it, I'll get around to that in a later episode. So we see we have 3 different nodes we can choose to, we can travel to, and each of these travels would cost us 1 supply, of which we started with 8. And these nodes have different symbols on them, so if we go from the top, this symbol here says that we might be able to find some supplies. This symbol here, the little running man, shows that we can make our crew better, and this one here has 2 symbols. So we note that we have an encounter symbol, saying there may be an encounter, and there's a research symbol, saying that there may be some research. So let's move here first. And we're told that a group of sheep is fighting to eat from a slightly greener patch of grass. But it's interesting to study this grass. We want this grass. So let's rumble with the sheep. And they don't like it, and so these sheep are going to get a bit angry, which Philippe is not very happy about. So we're going to start a rank 1 encounter, which is the easiest difficulty of encounter. And so we can see, depending on which attitude we finish with, we get different rewards. So here we want to be either friendly or devious. And I'll explain more between levels, but this crew which I've picked out is very good at being friendly and very good at being aggressive. They're not very good at being sneaky and devious, so we're going to aim to be friendly in this encounter. We're going to be nice to the sheep and ask them to share the grass with us. So I'm going to iterate once more. I'm not going to worry about strategy too much for just now. I'm just going to talk about how the mechanics work a bit. So if we bring Philippe up next to the sheep, we can encourage it, which is going to use our speech power, because this is a friendly ability, against the sheep's speech defense, which is actually 0. So we'll encourage the sheep. Oh, away! And the sheep's very happy. It's confident that we're the best, and it's quite right. Next we'll bring in Victor, and he's going to encourage one of these other sheep. Sheep aren't particularly tough, you might notice. We kind of very handily showing them that we know what's what. We're the best explorers. Our cause is the best. Now Kwame can't actually get over there. You notice that because the way these blue squares work, he's actually locked out at the moment. So we're going to just leave Kwame where he is, and we'll move on to the next turn. So now the enemies actually attack us back, which we haven't seen before. The sheep's being very cute. All kinds of cute, which is making Victor wonder if we're doing the right thing here. Maybe this grass should be for the sheep. Or maybe not. So we'll scarper over here to make some more space for the other 2 to move through. And then we want to encourage this sheep again. We've got a cool bugle sheep. What do you think about that? Yeah, it is the best. And then Kwame hasn't got to do anything yet, so I'll move him in here and he can make this sheep all excited for us. Isn't that pleasant? Yes, we're the best. So because we are friendly, we get the results we are told. So we get a bunch of study tokens. We want an encounter, so you just get 2 encounter tokens as default. And then another little detail, the tutorial which, if it had finished, would have told us, is that when you finish an encounter, depending upon your attitude, you get a little buff. So here, because we are friendly, we get a little buff this exposition. So Kwame gets a little bit of extra speech defense and a little bit of speech power. So the good news is by being so nice, we calm down the sheep and we finally get to look at this grass. And turns out, the reason the sheep like this grass so much is because it's got some special nutrients. And so we steal some of this grass from the sheep, but I'm sure they're cool with it. And look at the scientific value. Get some study out of it. Alright, so now that we've moved here, we've opened up a little bit more of the map. So including these two nodes here, which again will just cost one move to get to. And we can see that these nodes have gold at them. Now I'll explain why, but gold's actually something which is going to be quite important to us in playthrough. Sorry, I'll explain why later, between maps. And that's the reason that we want to be using Victor. But for now, we'll just move to this node. And a travelling goldsmith's come up to us and he wants to help us. Well, fantastic. So he joins our entourage and he'll help us with our finds. That's brilliant. So I'll explain more about what that means between the maps. Try and keep things simple for now. And so whenever we're getting these collect tokens, they're going to be slightly more valuable. Oh boy, look at that. We've opened up a lot of things here. So, all kinds of icons. So if we start over here, this node will cost us 1 to get to, as will this one. And this one has treasure, which is the most exciting symbol, so we're definitely going to check that out next. And it has nature challenges. So rather than having encounters, different nodes can have other kinds of challenges, which I'll explain to when I move there in a second. We're told in this case we have a nature challenge, which means that an athlete, a naturalist, or a survivalist may be useful. And there's also a wits challenge, which might make a tactician, a beguiler, or a quick thinker useful. Now what does that actually mean? Well, if we look at our different characters, we can see that they have different perks. So Victor is a tactician, who knows about defense and distinctions. Philippe is an engineer and also a rogue, possibly why he's so handy with that scalpel. And Kwame is a diplomat, he's just a nice guy. So if we move on over here, ooh, very exciting. Explain a bit of that in a moment. Now, as we're exploring around this little Saxon island, we find some more shacks and eventually a small mining village. So I asked them about it, and this is the small mining village of Cairnstone. Almost everyone here is a miner, and it's hard work, but the pay of a good mining season makes up for it a bunch. And there's mines we can go visit, and now that sounds nice. Let's go visit the mines. See an old man enjoying a mid-afternoon scotch, which sounds like a pretty good way to spend your afternoon. He's already been tired for a while, but he just can't leave this place. The charm of finding beautiful stones or gems is so satisfying. These mines contain many stones and many secrets. The main mineral found here is quartz. There's also small bits of gold and amber as well. And Victor decides to do some mining. And it might be wise to ask people what's going on before we do the mining. So now we have 4 choices we can use to decide what we want to do. And you notice that one of these choices is a different colour, this blue one here. And this is because it's an extra choice. Normally this choice isn't available, but we can do this choice because someone knows what's going on. One of our crew has the appropriate skill. And typically, these blue choices are better than your other options. You get a bonus for being prepared. So let's see what's going on. So there's a skeleton hiding a hidden entrance. But of course, sneaking past skeletons is a bit creepy. So we can see who would be good at this kind of thing. We're told that a rogue will be good. So these are how non-encounter nodes often work. You have some kind of task that you're trying to achieve, and you choose who in your crew will do it. Then depending on who you choose, there's different probabilities of success, and you'll get different rewards. Now here we can see that Philippe's actually got pretty good odds in this, 3/4. However, as we can, should we check out our options as well? So we can also talk to a gold expert, and he doesn't really want to help us. Kwame could try with a 61% chance, but that's worse than our other choices, isn't it? So let's see what else we can do. What happens if you want to do some research? Well, it's not great again, is it? Philippe's a scientist, so he's actually pretty good at research. You can see that we get a bonus from being a scientist. But 60% is not amazing. And we don't really want to start mining right away because there's other stuff to do. So let's, I guess, go back and check out the skeleton and see how sneaky Philippe's feeling. So you notice if we get this right, we get a treasure, which is great. But if we get it wrong, we lose one of our resolve, one of our lives. So a lot of the strategy in this game is kind of balancing around what risks are worth taking. And because I'm easily bored, I quite like taking risks, especially early on. So, let's try it. Oh, that's a shame. We didn't get it. So you see that little skull thing. It's a ghost lady. Deary me, that's no good. So everyone's scared, we lose some of our resolve. Now, so a couple of things have happened here. So remember, when you're moving around, this big purple spot showed up. Now this is where the end of the level is. This is our goal for the whole island. So we definitely need to make sure we go here before we run out of supplies. But that'd be the last thing we do, so it's coming later. The other thing you may have noticed is that there's this big blue arrow next to Philippe. He's got enough experience to upgrade. So what is experience? Well, each character starts at level 1, and then as we progress across, we get more and more abilities and get stronger and stronger. We get experience whenever we fight encounters, or whenever a character rolls on the wheel. So because we fought an encounter before, Kwame and Victor each have gotten 2 experience. Philippe's done that, and he also rolled the wheel once, so he got another 2 experience, bringing up to 4, which is enough for him to find level 2. Now leveling up early is fantastic, so we definitely want to level up. Question now is, do we want to take the engineering perk, or do we want to take the rogue perk? So they give us slightly different bonuses to our stats. The engineering one makes us stronger and it gives us a little more speech defense, whereas the rogue one, again stronger, gives us more grit, which the game hasn't told us about before. What grit does is it gives us a chance to dodge attacks, which is fantastic. In the late game, when you're sort of dodging quite a lot of attacks, that can be very, very useful. So I'm going to take this rogue perk. And now Philippe is level 2. The other exciting thing was this little square here. So when we leveled up to level 2, so it goes 2, 3, 4, 5, Philippe unlocked another ability. So here he's unlocked Amnesia Shot. This is a very strong ability. So like with Philippe's scalpel, it's very likely to hit, so you're always hitting people. Its power is about half that of the scalpel itself. But there's a few things going for it. It's got a big range, so you can throw it quite far from himself, and it'll hit someone. And unlike Philippe's other abilities, which are either friendly, devious, or aggressive, Amnesia Shot doesn't have any attitude. So if we're in, say, a particular attitude, we want to stay there, say we're being friendly, and we don't want to change, we can use Amnesia Shot, and it won't matter what else we're doing. So we want to physically attack people, even though it's friendly, we can use Amnesia Shot. And one last little bonus is that it adds debuff to them, so it makes the target a little bit weaker in armor, weaker in defense, and a little bit worse at dodging. So we start our turn by Amnesia Shotting, then attacking someone, we can get a lot of stuff done to them. Now, so we're coming back to there later, because that's the end of the map. So for now, let's wander back over this way. Normally you want to try and explore as much of the map as possible, get as many rewards as you can. So what I want to do now is I want to head towards these supplies, so to make it easy to explore more. So we'll go here, then we'll probably go here, then we'll go for the supplies. Let's check out here first. Now this got another new symbol again. So there's status, which is how we get our friends, our allies, who make us stronger. There's gold, which is going to be fun, and then there's something odd here, which is always a fun one, saying there's something weird going on. We don't quite know what, but we'll give you a symbol for it. Now, because we're in a sex land, it's raining all the time, so we've given up and we've gone to hide in a cave. Now, taking a bit of a break, make a clove, make a fire, and let's have a bit of a break in here. And there's lots of war equipment, including some skeletons, maybe we'll die, so we could either take valuable equipment or noteworthy equipment. But because Victor's a great tactician, we can actually do both. So we're just going to take all the best equipment. In fact, there's some tactical plans on the walls which will give people defensive insight. So we can choose someone to learn about tactician. So we could have Philippe or Kwame study it. Victor already knows what's going on though. So this will be another little bit of strategy comes in. So having more perks is great. There's not normally much point in doubling up. This game, Victor's going to be our guy who knows all the tactician stuff, and because he already knows defense, having Philippe or Kwame knows it's pretty much useless. So actually we're just going to tell them, let's get some more weapons, get a whole bunch more gold. Fantastic. Look at that. Money, 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 money. Now, as the game told us, something else is going on here. So it's very extended, this tutorial, and this little campfire's popped up. So every time we finish an encounter, as a node, you may have noticed this bar has been getting slightly higher. When it gets high enough, then we can click on it, we get a little campfire story. So this is where our crew gets to interact with each other, make some friends, or learn some various other things. It's nice, just a little bonus for sort of going through each map. So let's have a look. So we choose which campfire story we're going to have. Kwame's having a nap, Philippe's tinkering with something, and Victor's he's being a dandy. He's waxing his mustache or just looking cocky. So there's different types of stories. So this red one, dodgeball, is going to give you everyone a skill. This yellow one, each character has one special yellow card. So this is the one for Kwame. This purple one gives us a bunch of points, and the blue one gives us bonuses whenever we're rolling the wheel. Now, this game, we're not going to be playing around with quick finger. We're looking at Diplomat for Kwame, looking at Engineer and Rogue for Philippe, and we're looking at Tactician for Victor. But we'll maybe keep that for later, because that's fun. In my opinion, these skill ones aren't very good. So you see, we get 150 renown, 150 points for every level 2 Diplomat we have. Now, Kwame is a Diplomat, but the others aren't, and they're not ever going to be. So this never does more than give us 150 points, and I think we can do better than that. So the question is, do you want to roll the one which makes our quick fingers better, or do you want to just run with Kwame's story? We don't have any quick fingers, right? So there's not much point in doing this. So we're just going to do a Kwame's special story. So let's have a look. Kwame's asking for everyone's attention. He thinks that we should try and be culturally sensitive. Now, it'd be better if there's just one person to deal with cultural challenges if possible. And who should this be? Well, Kwame's a Diplomat, Philippe's a Rogue, and Victor's a Tactician. So it should be either Kwame or Philippe, I think. So let's see what the bonus we get is. Whoever we choose gives us some extra resources. So we get 2 campaign tokens and 50 points whenever that person succeeds on a Diplomat or an Archaeologist spin. Well, Kwame's a Diplomat, we don't have an Archaeologist, so we want to choose Kwame. His kindness and his elderly wisdom will make him very successful in being cultural. Maybe Philippe doesn't entirely agree. We can't always be nice to people. Try respectfully getting our way through a pack of wolves out of the tomb of mummies, which we'll see maybe later. However, it's nice to be culturally aware, isn't it? So, and that's the end of our little campfire story. So now, from that, Kwame has a little perk. So he gets an extra speech, and then less attack for every level of Diplomat. So notice now that Kwame's got a very, very high speech, and a very low attack. So he's great at being friendly to people, and not very good at just attacking them with his little stick. Just hide. These two have got swords and stuff. Now, let's go improve our crew. 2 people are having a heated discussion as we walk by. One of them's asking us, "Hey you, hey, yeah you, we need your opinion on something." Discussing what the best way to solve problems. I think that using speech is better, but he thinks that physical attack's the way to go. And what do we think? If we choose the first guy, who will teach us how to use speech effectively. If we choose the Highlander, he'll do the same for attack, for this island only. So we're choosing who we want to buff for this island. Well, Kwame is very, very good at speech already, so I don't think we actually need any more speech. So what we want to do is we want to choose attack, and give that to either Philippe or Victor. Notice their stats are actually very similar at the moment. So let's just give it to Philippe. Off Philippe's attack. He's got this fancy amnesia shot we're going to use anyway. So we choose attack, and then we'll let Victor. Oh, I said Philippe. Sorry about that. Victor's attack increase Felix's expedition. Something about the history and customs of this island and how we can use those to stab people better. Right, let's go find some supplies. We're starting to run a bit low. And it's an abandoned farm. Oh, that's fantastic. Free supplies. Brilliant. So now we're all stocked up and keep on exploring. What do we have here? Another unexplored node. We can find some research, some gold, and then there's a cultural challenge, which Kwame should be pretty good at. Oh, but Victor's just a tactician and knows what he's doing. Eh? So we could study it with Victor, which you'll note it's got a chance of giving us some stuff, or we can just pick out the good things. Now you'd think I just want to pick the good stuff here, because 4 collects for free is guaranteed, is great. However, I'm actually going to have him study the battlefield. The reason being that I really want to get a couple more XP. So if we just choose a blue choice, we don't get XP for that. We have to roll the wheel in order to get that. That's why we didn't level up Victor before, when he spotted that skeleton. Or when we were in that cave and doing the mining. So let's Victor study the battlefield and see what we can find. The other reason is that we already have a whole bunch of collect, you'll notice, from when we looted things before, so we don't really need that so much. And hey, he succeeded, so we get a little bit of study, we get some collect, and Victor gets some experience. And now Victor can level up. So let's see what we can get. We can get some more tactician, or we can get some more diplomat. Now, because we decided that Kwame is going to do all the diplomat stuff, we can just easily take tactician. And Victor's new ability is called Peace Treaty, which makes everyone very friendly. So I'll have to talk about mood the next time we're in a fight. But this is great for helping us flip between different emotions. So we can see up here we've got another encounter, there's some gold, and there's some status. 2 thieves run away from an angry mob. They ask us to let them pass. No! They're thieves. Cannot be bribed. So this fight we want to bash them, because they're thieves, they're baddies. Right, so draw a cutout on this last thing, so let me pick up where we left off. So we got our different attitudes, friendly, devious and aggressive. You want to be aggressive. Everyone's got their stats, so you have speech power, speech defense, attack power, armor. This boot is how much move they can, so you can see that Victor can move any 3 tiles, and then grit, which is your chance of dodging. Although none of our people are very dodgy. Everyone has their different abilities: aggressive, devious, friendly, and special abilities. Now, what the tutorial didn't tell us before it crashed on us is that there's different moods here, which is little paper, scissors, rock thing, one of my favourite parts. So roughly speaking, aggressive beats friendly, friendly beats devious, and devious beats aggressive. So you can trick them if they're being mean, you can beat them up if they're being friendly, or you can just be like a nice person and sort of deal with their politicking that way, which isn't maybe how the real world works, but that's okay. So here we can see that our opponent is being aggressive. So if we're friendly, they get a big advantage, whereas if we're devious, we get a big advantage. But we don't really want to be devious, so we can just be aggressive, and it'll be sort of tied between us. So let's give that a shot. So we move in Victor, and we'll attack this thief. And this guy's a little tough in the tutorial. Notice we didn't kill him in a single hit. So now if we actually look at his stats, we can look a little further. So he's kind of thuggish, no defense at all, and 80 health. Now what are these here, you might be asking? Well, these are different emotions. So recall before when we were exciting people, when we were making them confident, there's these little smiley faces associated with them. So here we can see that these thieves are weak to confident and they're weak to enraged. So these attacks do an extra 50% damage. People can also be resistant to that, taking half damage, or they can be immune, taking no damage. Like, you can't scare ghosts, for example. And these different moods all come with different attitudes of their own, just to make it more fun. So a character who's... Oh, it's not going to tell us here? Oh, that's a shame. Well, so we can see from Kwame, a character is excited has a bonus to speech. So make these thieves excited, they'll do more speech damage, which isn't great. If we make a character enraged, it loses armor. If you make a character sad, then it does less speech damage. It's all sad and can't talk properly. And as if we encourage someone, they get all confident and can attack more aggressively. And then terrorized, which I don't have a character to cover with, alas. Terrorized characters do less attack damage, and excited damage lose speech defense. Which I'm sure will come up. I'll make sure to explain it when it comes up. For now, I'm just going to bring in Philippe. And receive encourage, this little red symbol shows up, which means we're doing extra damage. Or we could just stab him. And in fact, I'm going to, because if we encouraged him, then he'd become confident, which would make him do more attack damage, so we get hurt more. So we don't want that, so we're just going to stab him. And as before, Kwame doesn't have anywhere to go. However, what I can do is that I can excite my allies, which would heal them, but in this case the reason I want to do it is that it changes their mood. So if I do this, I can make Philippe become excited, so Philippe's speech becomes better. So this thief's going to attack Philippe, which notice does a bunch of damage and also makes him a bit sadder, and this thief is going to attack Victor, again for some damage. So notice when we got hit that these little happiness bars went down. So roughly speaking, there's sort of three main states. There's positive emotions, there's neutral, and then there's negative emotions. Happy, confident, and excited are all positive, so you can only get those if you're in this green bar. Enraged, sad, and terrified are all negative, so you only get those if you're in the red bar. So if Philippe takes more damage and this little triangle gets out of the green bar, he'll stop being excited. However, that doesn't matter, I think, because we're probably about to beat these guys up. So here's where I'm going to use that amnesia shot I got from Philippe. Doesn't do a huge amount of damage. You know what? I changed my mind. I think I can probably kill him in one go. So we can see how much damage. So Kwame doesn't do very much damage at all. He's good at making people happy. So we can see if Kwame did it, then this guy has slightly more than half his health left. Half his health. If Philippe attacks him, it'll again do about half his health. So this guy's going to be slightly alive if we just attack him normally. So we're not going to do that. What we can do is we can press U to undo the last move. So move Philippe back here. And instead, we're just going to shoot this amnesia shot at him. Pow! Enter. This makes this guy less speech defense, less armor, and less grip. So we hit him with Kwame, it's going to do a whole bunch of damage. See, look at that, it's a lot of damage. So we try to excite him, and it's going to do a lot. 47 in one hit, that's pretty good. Alright, and that'll be our turn. I was going to stab Kwame because he's not a very nice person, but it's fine, that which doesn't kill us, and now Victor can just go in and stab him. Before I do that, notice that we have these little pips up here. So I mentioned that whether you're friendly or devious, there's a little paper scissors rock thing going on. Now what you sometimes want to do is you want to change what encounter you have mid-fight. So if you use abilities, you get different little pips. So say we look at the friendly one. Whenever we use a friendly ability, we get 1 point. And whenever we defeat someone with a friendly ability, we get 2 points towards that. And we fill this all the way up, then rather than being aggressive, we'd instead be friendly. Same thing for devious. However, we want to stay aggressive here, so I'm just going to stab him. She's very happy about, but he's also dead. So we've defeated the thieves. And because we are aggressive, we get some campaign tokens and 2 encounters, and then lastly, Victor, we get a little bonus for being aggressive. So Victor gets some armor and some attack power for this expedition. And everyone's happy we dealt with the thieves, so we get some more status, some more campaign. And now Kwame's leveled up as well, so let's see what we get here. So we can choose Quick Finger, or we can choose a Diplomat perk. And so this may be half a choice. I decided we're going to go with Quick Finger. Sorry, I decided we're going to be Diplomat this game, but we've got this Quick Finger here, and we have that Quick Finger card we get from the campfire before, so we can kind of branch out and do a bit of both. So I'm actually going to choose the Quick Finger one, which gives us a little bit of grit and a little bit of speech power, or a Diplomat would give us a little bit of speech power, a lot of speech power actually, and a little bit of speech defense. But we'll try the Quick Finger thing. It's often very nice to have sort of 2 main traits, 2 main perks for each of your characters. So maybe we have to pick something else up for Victor. So we unlock that, and we get a new ability for Kwame, which is the super fun one called Cheer. So I'll have to show this to you because it's just great. But basically it's a ranged Excite. You take out someone who's far away, it does 100% of our thing, but it can also heal our allies, just like Excite does. So we can use that to heal people from quite far away, which is very useful. Now we still have 3 supplies left, so we can explore a little bit more. So let's move here. Right on this tribe, your name, it'll give you knowledge and fame. Well, easy peasy. Let's find a vision, the history of the area. After this intense vision, we look at the other names, and ours join the other famous explorers who've passed the shrine. Now, still 2 supplies, so ideally you want to go to 0 supplies just as you land on this purple node. So you can probably go 1 there, and then 1 there. So let's check this out. So this is a technique challenge, which will where engineers and spies are useful, such as Philippe. And off we go. There's another cave, a gambling paradise for miners. Oh ho ho, let's have a look. Oh, it's an empty casino apparently. But because Philippe's a rogue, we can find a hidden safe. Full of money, so we're kind of robbing some miners, but I guess that's okay. Right, well, we have this 1 suppliers left. And so it looks like it's time to move on to the boss fight. So we're told once we do this, our expedition will end, but we're ready to go. We've used up all our supplies, we've explored a whole bunch, so onwards. We find the Saxon burial site, just as expected. One of the tombs is King Egbert, so we finding it will make our expedition flourish. But first we hear a familiar laugh. It's Rivalo, that fellow, the most promising of the renowned explorers. And he's saying, under blah 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 rule, explorers should help each other out, which is great. So he needs us to let him take the tomb to help him out. It isn't fair, we worked hard for this treasure. But he's not having it. He doesn't want to leave this important treasure to us. He doesn't know how to explain us, so he's going to get his devious friend Amir Akhtar to explain it while he steals it. Wait a minute. Instead, Amir's going to shout at us, "We suck!" Oh, so I mean, look how sad, look how angry Victor is. Right, time to have an encounter. Going to show Amir what's what. So we've got this boss Amir and a bunch of little fucks. And if we're devious, he's going to be impressed by us. If we're friendly, nah. If we're aggressive, he'll be like, whatever. Now the bad news, we're really bad at being devious. Like, really bad. So this is where I need to make a choice. Do I want to be aggressive and sort of go for a neutral route, but he'll have an advantage against us in the paper, scissors, rock? I could be friendly, which will make the fighting easy, because friendly beats devious, and we're good at it, but then he will be sad. Or I could try and be devious myself and get a little bonus. It's tricky. I think I'll try being devious, but we can always give up one day if we need to, because we're really not very good at it. So you notice that, for example, Kwame has Excite. Instead of Enrage, he has Try to Enrage, which will, so you notice, instead of 100% speech power, it's only 75% speech power. So we're going to do quite a lot less damage with Kwame. And similarly, Philippe only has Try to Sadden, which is less damage and it's less likely to hit. And Victor also has Try to Enrage, which is unlikely to hit. So we're going to have to rely on Kwame making everyone mad. Now, if we check out our enemies, we see these generic mobsters don't have much health, which is great. And they don't need defense, which is also great, so we can kill them pretty easily. There are, however, a lot of them. It's what, 6 plus Amir himself. Now, how about Amir? He's a mean bully, as we were told. Quite a lot of health, but no defense. The bad news, though, is that he's got grit, so he might just dodge some of our attacks, which would be really annoying. And if we're ever sad, he can do a lot of damage to us, so he can destroy the confidence of a saddened person. So we want to be careful that they don't make us sad. So because our enemy is going to be devious, our important stat this fight is not armor, but it's speech defense. So we've got to make sure we protect Victor, because he does not have much speech defense. You notice that these guys have a lot more speech defense. So Philippe, our scientist, is very tough. Lots of health, lots of defense. Kwame is a little less tough, but he's a bit dodgy, so it'll work out. So we just got to make sure that Victor stays safe. Now I know I said that I was going to go and be devious, but the first thing I'm actually going to do is to use the Encourage. The reason is, this guy is weak to confidence, so it deals with him in one shot. Another nice reason is that because we're now in the friendly mood, we're persuasive. We're friendly and they're devious. So we get a perk because of the Papist's Rock. So we get a bunch of extra speech defense. So we're friendly at the moment. If we use a whole bunch of devious ones, then by the end of the encounter, we'll be devious overall. So having done that, I should have looked where the others could make it. So we can't actually reach this guy, which is a mistake on my part. How far can these guys reach? These guys can reach quite far as well. So in short, I've messed this up entirely. But the good news is that Victor's probably pretty safe. And we're very tough right now. We've got all the speech defense. You see that Philippe's only taking half damage. Kwame's more or less taking half damage as well. So let's see what happens if we enrage these guys. So it's fantastic. We're still actually dealing with them one hit. So we enrage him and you go away. Yeah, and he's not very happy about that, unsurprisingly. Downsides, now we're in a bit of a tough choice. So I could use Sadden with Philippe, because we want to use devious abilities overall. The problem is that then our mood will fill up these 3 devious pips and we'll become devious. So we'll lose this bonus speech defense that we have. I could also attack a guy if I wanted with him, but then we'll fill up our aggressive pip, and it'd be even worse, because then they'll be devious, we'll be aggressive, and we'll get penalised. The mood will become escalated, and we lose a whole bunch of speech defense, which would be terrible, so we can't do that. I could use Encourage on someone, but we don't really want to use too many friendly abilities this fight. So I think I might actually do, so think about using Amnesia Shot. You see, it doesn't kill a guy in one hit, so it's not particularly exciting, really. So it's a bit of a tricky one. So I'm actually just going to do, as Philippe's probably just going to do nothing. Or almost nothing. I'm going to actually encourage Kwame, which makes him confident, which we don't care about, but it makes his mood higher. So recall that Amir wants to make our people sad, so we can do lots of damage to them. By making it positive, so the higher in this green bar we are, the harder it is for them to become sad. So we make Kwame more positive, and he's sort of more resistant to what Amir's going to try and do. In theory. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, see, he zapped us, but we're still not sad. Even if we do have stinky underwear. Oh no! The Fug did something scary. They threatened us. And Philippe, but it shouldn't do very much at all. Oh, he missed, so that's exciting. So enemies can sometimes fumble attacks and they just miss them, which is great. Now, what else did you mention? So in most encounters you have to finish all of your enemies. However, in boss fights you only have to defeat the boss. So one thing which might be nice is if we can just try and sort of snipe in some ways Amir. Do lots of damage to him, and then the fight will just be over without having to deal with all these other guys. We see he's weak to confident, which is great. If Philippe does confident him, it's going to do a whole bunch. See, it's almost half his health. However, because he has all that grit, Amir does, I mean, then we might actually miss, which sucks. I'm just checking out what these abilities do. So I think we're going to stay being devious. Well, let's see. Let's have a look at Victor. Confident, kills them in one hit, as we know. So let's do that. Remember, we want to try and keep Victor safe, because he's not very tough here. Now, when we dealt with that guy being friendly, it actually took a pip away from our other ones. So because we defeated someone the friendly, we lost one of each of our other pips. So this means we can be mean to someone again without going into devious. However, I probably just want to move into devious at this point. We got some nice defense last turn, which is great, but we really just want to be making sure we deal with someone every turn. Once we remove all these henchmen, Ymir is much easier to deal with. So enrage this guy over here. Blah blah blah, you're a snail. And that deals with him. So now we switch into the devious mood, and things become very tense. So when it's all tied up like this, notice that friendly abilities gain in power, so that might be useful later. However, we want to make sure we use a bunch of devious abilities from now. We've used a lot of friendly abilities, so friendly is still dominant. We want to make sure we stay devious. However, remember, Philippe's very, very bad at that. It's unlikely to hit, and it won't kill people. What we can do though now is, because we're in devious, we can attack them. So the pips aren't exactly balanced. When we're being friendly, being aggressive at all changes the mood, but now that we're devious, it is 3 pips to change the mood. So we can actually attack, and even though we'll kill them, we'll get 2 pips, but the mood won't change. So I just do this, and even though I attacked a guy, we don't get the penalty by losing at the little mood paper scissors rock. We're all tied up. Oh, he ran all the way around to attack Victor. That's rude. It's gonna do... Yeah, look at that. 19 damage. And that's nothing. We don't care about that. Now, because Victor did his... because Ymir did his strong ability, he's very easy to hit this turn. He lost all of his fatigue. I mean, he is fatigued. So I think if we try and notice now, that Victor's even more likely to hit. All their stuff's going to be very likely to hit him this turn. So we want to dogpile him this turn, basically. See if we can just deal with him this turn. So let's see, how much does Philippe do? Philippe does not very much, but makes him sad. Making him sad, that's good, because then he won't do very much damage. Kwame does a lot. Look at that. That's most of his health in one go. It's because Kwame's speech is very, very high. And how about Victor? Well, Victor's not in range, but to encourage him. This question is, why is this doing so much? So you notice the power is normally 100, but now it's got an extra plus 25%. That's because we're tense, making friendly abilities stronger. So the plan is going to be to use 2 friendly abilities, which do a lot of damage, and then finish them off with a devious ability, because then we get a big bonus from defeating the boss with the devious, and then finish as we wanted. So we'll use the Excite of Kwame first, which makes him very happy. I think the problem now is that if I use Encourage of Victor, yeah, I'm going to deal them, because we can't actually do that. And it'd be the same, because he's weak to Encourage. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use Amnesia Shot of Philippe. So remember that this does a little bit of damage, but it doesn't change the mood at all, which is very useful. So you don't want to use friendly or aggressive abilities, and Philippe's sadden, it might miss. So do this, and we definitely hit, do quite a lot to him, and we're going to make him weaker at the same time. Kabow! And now he loses a bunch of armor and speech defense, so he takes extra damage from speech attacks. So if Victor hits this in rage, which is a 98% chance, which I'd say is pretty good, we'll defeat him while being devious. Of course, if Victor misses, which would be unfortunate, we're in trouble, but 98% is good odds. And so we get stuff for finishing our encounter, and a bonus, so this time it's the devious one, which gives us a little bit of grit, making us easy to dodge, and a little bit of speech power. And we did what he wanted, and Mia's all impressed. He's like, "Oh, my friend, you're pretty sharp. I must honour you with some coin in this checklist. Describes treasures my boss wants to find. Beat us to getting one. You deserve it." Now, of course, Rilo, while we're doing this, already plundered the tomb. But we got some gold, and because we finished, we get a little bonus. So we give us 2 gold, and everyone's in speech goes up by 1, which isn't very important, but it's nice. Now, let's look at this checklist of Revelo. So there's the one in the Forgotten King, one by the locals, and one by the Dangerous Cliffs. We can pick one of these to try and beat him to. So let's have a look. I'm not really told enough to go, so if we want to investigate the tomb, we can see how good everyone's going to be at it. So the important one here is that Philippe will be 60%. Or if we convince the locals, Kwame's very good at that, right? Because he's a diplomat, so he's 100%, which is pretty nice. Or lastly, we can look at the Dangerous Cliffs. So we're choosing between either trying to get a bunch of collect, a bunch of science with the tomb, or a bunch of status. Now, for the first map, I love having lots of study. That's, in my opinion, the best one to have, but we only have a 60% chance, which is pretty terrible. So I'm going to go with convincing the locals of Kwame. We're going to get a whole bunch of status, we get some renown because of that campfire story we used, and we're going to get a treasure of some kind, which is pretty great. So let's have a look. They were going to help Rivalo, but Kwame's so good he convinced them. Amazing. We found what's known as the Heliodor. And so, boy, is this the first treasure I found. This treasure gives us 150 renown, 2 insight, which we can spend to get tokens on the world map, which we'll see next episode, and we get to choose one other bonus as well. So we choose from one of these 4 bonuses. So we can just get free collect and free study, which is, it's so-so. Study is nice. We can make our collect tokens better for the rest of the game. It's an extra couple of gold from each collect token on average, which is pretty good. Or we can choose to make our discovery tokens better as well. Now discovery tokens are rare. Those are harder to get. So we don't actually have any, you'll notice. And then we'll see that Chairman Pinkerton is recommending that we make our treasure hunts better. Now honestly, I think he's wrong. I'm not really sure what we want though. So the question is whether we want this one, which gives us a bunch of study right now, which could be quite useful, although not very impressive. Or we want one of these other ones, which makes things better throughout the whole game. So choosing these is kind of thinking about the metagame a bit more, which I haven't really talked a lot. Been kind of working out what resource you're trying to focus on, which ones are going to be important for you, and so on. Now I'll do this proper next episode. We're on the world web screen, because that's where that always comes into play. For now, I'm just going to have a look at Victor. So because Victor's our captain, a decorated military captain, he gets a special captain perk. In this case, we get extra gold from encounter, and we get extra renown from encounter. So because of this, we want to focus on gold this game. We want to make sure we're getting as much gold as possible, because he's very good at getting gold, so we want to make sure that the gold we do get is very useful. And so this is where I'm cheating a little bit, because I know the skill trees, but this means I'm going to choose this treasure hunt skill tree. We're going to focus on the skill tree which works well having lots of gold, and that's where treasure hunts come into play. So I changed mine. I will go with what Pinkerton said. And now, that's the end of this expedition. So we got the one Heliodor treasure. We got a whole bunch of collect tokens from that one time we were in the cave. Got a bunch of status tokens. And we got some study tokens. And remember, we have a bunch of encounters as well. The screen's breaking down, here everything goes. So the collect tokens gave us some gold and some renown, status and renown, research renown, and then a little bit of everything. So in total, we got about 300 renown. And that's the end of the expedition. We discovered some exotic location in the Saxon Islands, Victor Signok, and we're a tyrant tycoon, so we're angry, stabbing them, and we're focused on the gold. You see, we've got a long way to go to catch up to Revelo though. Alright, so this brings us back to the world map, which I'll cover next time. Thanks very much for joining me. See ya.